Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pickleillian Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show on Blog Talk Radio. I'm your host, Jumpin' John Primo, and with me tonight, fortunately, is my cohort in crime, and that's Judge Ray Taxi. Judge, how you doing?
I'm doing well, John. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's actually a pretty exciting night for me. We're trying something new, and we are broadcasting live from one of my big fantasy drafts. I'm here with a league that I've been in for about 8.
John, you're breaking up on us, John.
Okay. So I'm here with live at a fantasy draft with a bunch of my friends and my brother's friends from high school and college, and so you're going to hear a lot of background noise, and we're going to try and make it work. I thought we'd add a little.
I love it. This is a fantasy football event. We are doing the show live. One of the call-ins live from a draft. What kind of draft is it, John? Is it a snake draft? Is it an auction draft?
It is an auction draft. So it's a lot of fun. The guys have known each other for some 40 years, and so there's a lot of back and forth, and it's just a great time. And so that's where we are right now. We're about midway. A lot of the big names have gone off the board. I'm trying to track as well as I speak, and it makes it a little difficult, but we're ready to go.
This will be impressive if you are able to somehow successfully draft and host a radio show at the same time. That is a talent.
But I will let you know a little secret. I'm here with my pops. We share a team in this league, so it's one of the reasons why I like it as much as I do. It's something we can do together. And my brother's in the league, as I mentioned before, so it makes it kind of neat that we can do this together. And, of course, there's a lot of smack talk between my brother and I, and that's why they call me Pop-Off, actually. So
I love it. Now, who's your big guy? Who'd you break the bank for?
Well, we haven't really broken the bank. It's a 2-quarterback league, so the quarterbacks makes it dynamic a little bit different than normal quarterback. We actually got Matthew Stafford for $26, and Chris Johnson we got for $25. So I'm pretty pleased with that so far. Some high numbers. I think Frank Gore went for about $10. I'm not sure what the owner was thinking there, and so things get kind of crazy. So Aaron Rodgers went for 32, and Tom Brady went for 28 to the same team. So he has Aaron Rodgers. Oh yeah.
Cornering the market.
Rob Gronkowski. Hey, well he's cornering his team. He's going to be a little needy in running back, deep, so he may get a couple of there, but that's his strategy this year. So we all do a little different.
All right, maybe we'll have a couple updates from what's happened with the draft. Good stuff.
Well, when we go to our commercial break, I'll take a quick look at the board. So before we get started, I just want to remind everyone that we do have a call-in number. That number is 877-511-1024. Please feel free to call in, ask your questions, and we do have a chat room that I need to open. With that chat room, and comments. So,
John, you're having a tough. The multitasking is going to be it's challenging. You're breaking up a lot.
Okay, let me
up your back.
Move a little. I never laughed. I just have to relocate a little bit. So let's see how this goes.
Lift your left leg up and hold up your right hand. And that should work.
Well, I did that earlier, but my wife yelled at me, so I'm...
That was before the show started, though. That was weird.
Well, it was before the show. Well, this is a radio show. It's not on live TV, so we're okay. All right, so let's get going. Big week, NFL. Game 1's coming up. It's in a way, it seems it's just snuck up on us pretty fast. We've been doing the radio show for quite a few weeks, but week 1 this year. Let's start with some big news that's come down the pipe, and not that it's unexpected, but we have both MJD and Mike Wallace reporting to their respective teams. And so, Ray, let's get a little breakdown on MJD. What do you think it means, and where are you going to draft him?
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see him back. I think people sort of believed he was going to return, even though there was a little bit of animosity between him and the owner. Not surprisingly, I'm not super high on the Jaguars offense just because I'm not super high on Gabbert. But MJD is, always solid. Those people that drafted him are breathing a sigh of relief. Those late-breaking drafts like yours tonight, John, I have one tomorrow night. You go in with some more certainty. But, MJD is always solid. He's going to get his touches. And welcome back, Maurice. First game against the Vikings, whose defense is not what it was. So, you play him right away. I think if he's gonna get the touches, even some of his normal touches, I think he's probably worth a play.
Yeah, he's going to be a third down back from what I hear. So at least for the first game, of course, with someone his talent, he's not going to be on the bench for very long. And as the game dictates, he may get more touches. Some of that will also depend on his conditioning. But I think you have to look back to recent history and Chris Johnson last year. And he really did not get it started until the second half of the season. So while MBD is an immense talent, I think you have to go with a little trepidation there in picking him up. And I can't see him lasting till the third round, or at least deep into the third round. But temper your expectations at least in the beginning of the season. So if you can build a strong team around him, and for the fantasy playoffs, that might be a great strategy.
Yeah, it's a great point you make, John, actually. He will be limited to start. I don't know whether that's truly based on conditioning or punitive or both. If it's truly based on conditioning, it is what it is. If it's punitive, depending on how the game goes, you may see some more touches out of him.
Well, coaching is a year-to-year prospect in this league, so no matter what the contract says. So every week, every year, these coaches are fighting for their professional lives. So I can't, unless Khan is really mad at him, I can't see there being too many punitive repercussions past the first week. But, hey, humble opinions. So let's move on. MJD. So if any of you guys are out there listening and want to chime in on where you think he's worth, please feel free. So let's move on to Mike Wallace, the other notable holdout that came to term, or not signed his tender, but so he's going to be back with the Steelers, and he will be playing Week 1. And do you think he's a valuable commodity Week 1 going forward, Ray?
He's certainly a valuable commodity. I think he's no longer sort of the absolute go-to guy in Pittsburgh. I think he's lost a little ground to his counterpart, but he is the burner. He's got the wheels. I'll have to see what kind of condition he's in. Again, might be someone that you watch for Week 1, and you see how Antonio Brown is getting more of the looks, I think, especially midterm looks. But whilst his game is breaking it downfield, and does he have the legs to break it downfield? Yet to be seen. I like him as a wide receiver 3, maybe Week 1. I think as the year goes on, he'll certainly move up to it too.
I think we're getting a lot of flack down here for my break. Not yet. Get a little flack for my record last year was not stellar. I came to the draft and left early to do my show, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to be here for this draft. So we'll see how it goes, but it's all in good fun. But I need to be better than my record last year, so we got to wish me luck on that, right?
It comes with the territory now. Same thing, John. So I've been doing leagues with one set of guys for 20 some odd years, and start doing this show, and now Mr. Fantasy Expert, maybe we'll drop out. We're giving you our money, and you can't help but get abused and hazed.
Well, we have 10 teams, a couple multiple owners, but we've got about 8 teams down there. I think I'm just talking to myself. So, we'll have to get them listening to the show next week, and we can prove me right. So let's move on with Mike Wallace. I like the guy. I liked him last year. Had him on my team. Disappointed me a bit. I'm actually a bit higher on Antonio Brown, either with or without Mike Wallace there. And I think Mike Wallace stretches the field, so it's only a good thing Antonio Brown can get more of those underneath routes. And for conditioning-wise, I'm not sure it's as big a deal for a wide receiver, especially not Mike Wallace going downfield. He can come out for a couple plays, go back in. So I think he's still going to be pretty effective. Again, week will be quite to the level that you may expect of him. But I think overall for this year, he'll still do pretty well.
Yeah, I think he's a sort of I agree, and he's the kind of guy where he'll have some weeks where I think he's not doing a lot for you, but he's going to have those weeks where he's 2 touchdowns, 180 yards, because he hits a 50 and a 40-yarder, and if you don't start him that week, you're going to be kicking yourself for the next 7 days.
I think he's an every week start. You have to, and just for the reason you said. And he is their home run hitter. I do think Roethlisberger will be throwing the ball more this year. One, just because they have a new offense that they have to impress, and two, just because their running back situation is a little bit shaky. So I do think Roethlisberger will be slinging the ball a little bit more. Their offensive line still not quite shaping up to what they would with the Castro injury and with Mike Adams not being able to start. So it'll be interesting to see how they come out and whether they do try to establish the run or whether they come out and throw for the show. So that's what I'm looking for. I have Antonio Brown. Yeah, I have Antonio Brown in our league. So,
Antonio Brown. I think we both like. I think we've talked about it. I think we both like him to actually have a better year than Wallace when it's all said and done, from a fantasy perspective.
But again, Mike Wallace is a weekly start. He's a minimum wide receiver 2, maybe not quite the first game, as you mentioned, but you have to get him in there. And he needs to prove himself, and I think he will this year. So let's move on to number 1 receivers again, Hakeem Nicks. He was sat out most of the preseason, came in week 4, made a catch, took a hit. He's ready. He says he's going to play through pain. But he is listed as questionable. So, I find that comment interesting, Ray, is he says he's going to play through pain. And what do you think he meant by that? Or is he just kind of posturing?
Yeah, maybe a little posturing, a little covering for himself. Maybe I believe him that he's playing not 100%, but, questionable in the NFL usually means starting. It's rare where questionable is actually out. So I expect he'll play, similar to what we talked about with Pittsburgh, John, with, Wallace and Brown. I think a lot of boards, Wallace is the higher receiver. We like Brown more. And they're both high. I like Victor Cruz more than Hakeem Nicks, even a perfectly healthy Hakeem Nicks. So as a side note, I actually love Manning and Cruz against the Cowboys coming up tomorrow night. This is like Christmas Eve here. You think about it. It's Tuesday night. We have, because of the convention, Democratic convention, I think, is the reason they moved this opening game to Wednesday night. And so in less than 24 hours, we're going to have the real thing. Stats count.
No, and you're right. They moved it for the convention. I'm excited. The earlier, the better. So Thursday night, Wednesday night. I have a Monday night call next week, or a Monday night game next week. So that would be great. I actually like Nicks a little bit better than Cruz. I think Cruz benefited from some really big plays, and that you just can't count on this year. I do think there's posturing, but I think you're right. The game tomorrow night against Dallas. If you had asked me before even the preseason, I would have had Dallas as the division favorite, possibly. Maybe even over my Eagles. I don't know. It's kind of a hard call. But they have so many questions in that defensive backfield that I think the Giants could have a big day. So I like that
John,
call.
I think we have a Cruz versus Nicks challenge coming up here.
I see a Cruz versus Nicks challenge. Absolutely.
We need challenge music. We got to put that on the board. Some sort of challenge music where we throw down the gauntlet, we figure out what the stakes are, and that's it.
All right.
And then at the end of the year, we can razz each other about it.
But it's a great start. It's a great start.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
I love that clip.
I do too. I haven't played it in a while, so I had to play it, even though I agree with you. We need some challenge music, get it going in there. So I'll tell you what, we actually have a caller, but we're going to be running up against a break time. So this is the Early In Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. I'm your host, John Prevost, along with Judge Ray Jaffe. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a 2-minute break, then we'll get back with our caller, and we'll keep going with some of the news of the week. So does that sound good to you?
I like it.
All right. So here we go, 2-minute break, and then we'll be right back.
Are you good at fantasy football? Are you used to winning your fantasy league? Now put your fantasy skills to the ultimate test by playing against the rest of the world with Fantasy Football Evolution. Draft your team and then manage it through a 10-week regular season, a 1-week elimination round, and finally, if you're good enough, a 64-team tournament that will determine the first ever Fantasy Football Evolution champion. The winner of Fantasy Football Evolution receives $25,000, cash prizes paid to the top 16 players. Visit www.nextgenffe.com for more details. The only way to know if you're the best is to play against the best. Don't let your fantasy issues become a reality. Fantasy Judgment is the premier dispute resolution service for all fantasy sports leagues. Led by attorney Michael Stein, the Supreme Court of Fantasy Judgment will resolve any and all issues or conflicts that arise in fantasy leagues. This includes disputed trades, collusion, abuse of power by league commissioners, lineup and roster errors, draft issues, score discrepancies, and interpretation of league rules. We alleviate the burden for league commissioners and allow everyone to focus on winning their leagues rather than arguing over disputes. Visit www.fantasyjudgment.
Hey fantasy fans, how often does 1 or 2 injuries ruin your chances of winning your fantasy league? If you're anything like me, too often. What if I told you that I found a fantasy game that could help you avoid that? You can win cash prizes daily. FantasyPlayerExchange.com is a new fantasy game that allows you to make a team every single day. You can choose from players in multiple sports. Every day you have a chance to win. Unlike traditional fantasy games, FantasyPlayerExchange.com allows you to make your own team every day. Sign up today and enter to win a free trip to Las Vegas. FantasyPlayerExchange.com. Invest in your daily fantasy.
Fantasy football owners, it's draft time, and KickassFantasyFootball.com makes it easy.
How do we make it easy?
Projections from the experts, cheat sheets with your scoring rules.
What else?
Articles all season long, waiver wire picks, trade advice, everything you need to win a championship.
How about a free judgment from FantasyJudgment.com, a $15 value?
Now we're talking.
Subscribe today for just $9.95 and we'll throw in a complimentary cruise for 2 to the Bahamas.
Cruise to a championship with KickassFantasyFootball.com.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Pick Lillian Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show, and we do have a caller in Jersey now. So Jersey was starting to explain to us with some questions, and he threw out Fred Jackson. So Fred Jackson always makes it interesting. So why don't you go ahead, Jersey?
Hey, what we got is, first question is with Junior's team. You know, it's 10-point rushing touchdown, PPR. He's got Fred Jackson and Doug Martin as his 2 starting running backs. He's got Toby Gerhart, and he's got Peyton Hillis on the bench. Now, he was wondering, should he drop not Peyton Hillis. He's got Toby Gerhart and Pierre Thomas. Should he drop Pierre Thomas to pick up Mendenhall? Because if Mendenhall's ready because his first bye week is with Doug Martin at week 5, so he'll need somebody to fill in at week 5. Would Mendenhall be ready? Should he drop Pierre Thomas now and pick up Mendenhall?
Well, Ray, why don't you go ahead? I think we're going to say the same thing here, but let's go ahead and hear what you have to say.
Well, yeah, I'm surprised Mendenhall is available even. Because he should be there week 5 going forward, rest of the year. And in fact, he's coming back earlier from this injury than originally thought. I think it's a no-brainer. I think, if Mendenhall's not taken now, he certainly will be as soon as people sort of wake up and start following, the real games going on. So, I would make the move.
All right. Yeah, I'll tell him to do that. Yeah, because, with my backs, I'm pretty loaded. I mean, I got Forte, Michael Bush. I got, Ryan Matthews, so I'm pretty tight, pretty good. And I got Ridley, so I'm good there. But my situation is I got Brady, who's going to be my quarterback every week except week 9. I have Castle as my backup. Now, should I keep Castle or do I drop him and pick up like Russell Wilson? I need him for 1 week. I think Wilson's going against Minnesota in week 9, as I forget who Kansas City has.
I would wait. I don't know that there's really any need to make a move because you're never going to use them except for that 1 week, and maybe I don't know if you have a week 17 game. I mean, if Brady goes down, you're in a shitload of trouble anyhow. So I'm not really sure it matters. What I would do, and Ray, please chime in, is I would wait, see who's got a good matchup that week, who's on the bench, or B, see if there's a quarterback that's just playing lights out, and maybe it is Russell Wilson once the season starts that you can grab just in case Brady goes down. But I wouldn't be in any hurry to make a move right now just to make a move.
Okay.
What do you
I'll do it that way. And do you agree this week I go with I have the Saints defense because I have them and the 49ers. Normally it's a no-brainer. You start the 49ers every week, but we're going against Green Bay and Green Bay. Do you think the best plays use the the Saints defense going against Washington and New Orleans with a rookie quarterback?
I do actually, and I it's probably the only scenario I can envision where I wouldn't use the San Francisco defense. But I think for all the points you said, Jersey, I do think it makes sense. Rookie quarterback in New Orleans, fired up with everything that went on in the off season. The 49ers are great, but Green Bay, is an efficient offense. So I think this is one of the very, very rare occasions you would not start the 49ers defense.
I agree.
New Orleans is not a good defense necessarily, but they are opportunistic. So depending on the game, like we said, as a rookie quarterback, there may be a lot of opportunities for interceptions, fumbles. So it's probably a much safer call.
Thanks for your help, guys. I really appreciate it again. Thanks again, and good luck this week. It's starting tomorrow. I appreciate your help.
Good luck.
Be talking again. Thanks,
hey,
guys.
Jersey.
Good luck, Jersey.
Always good to hear from you.
Take care. Thanks. Yep. Bye-bye.
It's another. We need Jersey in the house theme music.
We'll have to get on that as well. So we'll get the commish to work on some Jersey in the house music. I'm sure he's got something in his back pocket. But definitely our most loyal caller. So it's always good to hear from him. All right, so let's move on. And we got a few easy ones we can probably go through, and that's David Garrard. He will not make the Dolphins roster, and I just think that's kind of interesting just from all the splash they kind of made him to be the savior for the Dolphins, at least for a while, until Tannehill was ready. But Tannehill gets the nod, and that actually leaves the question of Delaware wonder kid Pat Devlin and how he's going to do for the Dolphins if he's called into service.
Well, John, I can't miss an opportunity to plug a blue hen. So, Pat Devlin looks like he might, be the third quarterback on the Dolphins behind Tannehill and Moore. And, if everything goes wrong for the Dolphins, if Pat Devlin's starting, it's not good news for the Dolphins, but, a blue hen alum can wish.
Yeah, it's I wouldn't expect big things, but it's always good to have those players from your school at least mentioned. So we'll wish for the best for him. David Garrard, I hope he recovers from his knee somewhere within the season, and then I would look for him on a roster come mid-season. I think he's got enough talent that he can be, if not a serviceable quarterback, at least a very good veteran backup. So let's go move on with another quarterback, probably your favorite, my favorite, John Skelton. Named starter down in Arizona. I mean, all right, what's the over-under?
Sorry, was that laugh out loud? I apologize. Yes, he out-dueled Kevin Cobb. So Larry Fitzgerald and Michael Floyd they can sleep easy. They know they have John Skelton getting them the ball. He outplayed Cobb, which wasn't saying much because neither of them played particularly well. It's hard to believe that Arizona is faced with this choice going into the season. You talked about David Garrard. Maybe that's a landing place for him. Not a great solution. I think they're in sort of the same boat as Jacksonville. I think, they have some obviously very talented receivers. I mean, Fitzgerald somehow, no matter I could throw the ball, and it seems like Fitzgerald's going to get points, but it limits the teams. It's really a weak spot for the Cardinals.
It does limit the team, and I'll use this little break from Angie that we do have a call in at 877-511-1024. But Fitzgerald still gets his numbers. So since this is a fantasy show, that Fitzgerald will still get his numbers, so still a safe play. I picked him up early in our draft, I believe it was. So I'm excited to see what he can do. But you're right, the rest of the offense, and just to make a point for Arizona, they're now down, I think, 3 starting offensive linemen. Their offensive line is a mess, and they have 2 injured running backs that they're, I'm not really sure. Hopefully, they can both come back. They both have, shown promise and/or production in the NFL, but 2 injured running backs, 4 quarterback, stinky offensive line. It's just not a good recipe there down there.
No, it's not a good recipe. And I steer clear of the Arizona running back position because that's actually how all this stuff plays out. Is we've talked about this before. Skeleton, not a lot of respect there. So there's 8 guys in the box, 2 guys on Fitzgerald and one guy covering Michael Floyd. So I think there could still be, like you said, Fitzgerald always gets his numbers. but I would steer very clear of Beanie Wells.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest hope there is if Michael Floyd can somehow step out of the shadow and be productive his rookie year. That's the best that they could really hope for. And it's I don't want to say it's a long shot, because Fitzgerald's the go-to guy, so they're probably looking at him first, middle, and last. So I'm not really sure even how many looks Michael Floyd's going to get because they're going to be running for their lives. But it's a good point. The Arizona running games, be very cautious with that. At some point, you're going to be picking them up, but I wouldn't expect big things from them. Oh, our favorite subject, Arizona.
Yeah, I know. Well, and then starting, we could get ready to go this week, but I think we'll be cautious and let the first week play out a little bit, and then we will really dig in every week and give our studs, our duds, our sleepers, our players to watch. So we're holding back week one to sort of see how the landscape all plays out. Since it is Tuesday, and we still have 5 days till game day. But once game day starts, we're going to be all over it.
Yeah. So just want to jump real quick. We talked about Miami earlier, and we talked about the injuries in Arizona. So I want to jump back and just mention that Jake Long won't play in the opener, and we don't always talk about non-skill position players in fantasy, but the offensive line has a direct impact. Jake Long might be the best player on the Miami roster, so it doesn't bode well for Reggie Bush or Daniel Thomas or whoever else may be back there. So,
or Ryan Tannehill. Not what Tannehill wants to see.
No, not the guy covering his blind side. But so, what do you think that means, Ray? Have you heard anything about maybe back? And what are your expectations for Miami this year?
Well, I think it just means, it's funny. It probably doesn't mean as much as it would in another situation because they probably have a relatively conservative game plan around the passing game with Tannehill's first game. So I don't know that they do a lot of deep, long counted type plays, long crosses downfield. They might take a couple shots, but I would expect more of sort of a shorter midterm passing game. So hopefully Tannehill gets the ball out of his hand. It's not going to be as big of a problem it might be. But obviously, not a good thing to have your best lineman not be there to protect your blind side.
And it may actually bode well for Reggie Bush, at least in the passing game. I'm not expecting him to be, frankly, a 1,000-yard rusher this year. But that's my expectation. You may have different, but it may actually increase his numbers in the passing game. So, he still could be quite a valuable commodity. I'm not so high on him this year, but taking another look at it, there's definitely some value there. So let's move on real quick. Another a tight end that I drafted, Jason Witten. He likely won't play week one. He says if he gets to go ahead from doctors, he will play. And I'm just wondering, Ray, what would you do in that situation? They play Wednesday. It's an early game. They don't play again for another 10 or 11 days. So what would you do with Jason Witten this week?
Yeah, I think I would probably sit him. And it's tough to say that because it's against the Giants. It is a divisional game. If it was a non-divisional game, I think it would be even an easier decision. But you're right, John. I think you hit it on the head. I mean, the reality of it is it's a Wednesday game, so they have a significant amount of time until they play again. You would think he would be really 100% at that point. So, I think discretion might be the better part of valor here. Sit Witten for the weekend and have him ready to go and sort of avoid the recurring injury if you give him this extra 8, 9 days, 10 days.
Yeah, I think that's another case, especially if you have to play a tight end. There's definitely some good backups. I drafted Tammy to back him up, so I'm plugging him in the lineup this week, and I don't know that I'll miss a whole lot. So, I think Witten's still got a lot of value in him, especially with some of the receivers hurt down in Dallas. But so draft a backup, wait for him to get healthy, and plug him in. But I think from Dallas' perspective, it's someone who's got a lot of meaning to Dallas, and they have a lot invested in him. So I think it's safe just to wait at least one more game and let him get that extra rest. So.
Yeah, if you need a tight end for the week, I love Kobe Fleener from the Colts.
Really?
I do. Played with Luck in college. Luck's first game. As good as he is, you think he'll that's his comfort zone. That's where he's going to go to. Bears are an aggressive defense, which obviously they'll cause problems, but it'll also, like you were just talking about, with Tannehill, it could cause some shorter midterm routes. So yeah, I actually like Fleener. Maybe someone that could step in for Witten this week on your roster.
I'm actually going with Chicago in my survivor pick. So
yeah, I don't think the Colts are going to win the game, but I could see, especially in a PPR league, I'm going to put Fleener down for 6 and 75 yards.
Oh, pretty aggressive numbers for the rookie. So that's a good call from the judge. We'll have to actually let's mark it down and we can.
I marked it down. Mark the tape. The tape's marked.
Now, is there a touchdown in that? I didn't hear that.
You know what? Let's put a touchdown in there too. Let's get crazy.
All right. Sorry, the Jaffe household just must be hopping right now. So 6 receptions for 75 yards and a touchdown.
Yep. Sign Kobe Fleener up for 6 for 75 and a touchdown. And if I'm anywhere in the ballpark, you'll hear about it for the rest of the year.
Oh, yes, we will. But if we're not, if we're not, you'll probably bury it somewhere. So I'll make keep it alive.
Selective memory.
It's good when you're a parent, too. When we're going up against the break, so let's take 2 minutes and remind everyone that we do have a guest call-in line, 877-511-1024. We do have a chat room, so please feel free to send your questions. We are the Pick Lillian Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show on Blog Talk Radio. I'm your host, Jumpin' John Prevost, and Judge Ray Jaffe will be back in 2 minutes.
Listen up, fantasy football owners. If you want top quality, guaranteed authentic sports memorabilia, there's only one place to go. Prestige Sports Marketing. They offer autographed baseball and football jerseys, framed jerseys, helmets, bats, photos, and amazing artwork. They're 100% guaranteed authentic, so you can feel 100% confident. Check out Prestige Sports Marketing at PrestigeSportsMKTV.com. That's PrestigeSportsMKTV.com. And a promo code ESPN and get 10% off.
This fantasy football season, be sure to check out Power Play Fantasy Sports, featuring free and pay-to-play fantasy football games with huge cash prizes. Power Play Fantasy Sports is your home for the 2012 fantasy football season. Visit the website PowerPlayFantasySports.com and use the promo code KICK to receive 20% off your entry in the Power Player Fantasy Football League, featuring a $5,000 grand prize. Again, that's promo code KICK. If you know football, this is the game for you. Visit PowerPlayFantasySports.com today.
Fantasy football owners, the Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show is back every Sunday this season with everything you need to cruise into a championship. Join me, the professor,
and me, the commish, along with fantasy insider Matt Lowry. Get all your fantasy football news as we break down all the players and tell you who to start and who to trade while we take your calls all show long.
We'll see you every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. all season long here on 97.3 ESPN. Check us out on the web at kickassfantasyfootball.com.
Are you good at fantasy football? Are you used to winning your fantasy league? Well, now put your fantasy skills and savvy to the ultimate test by playing against the rest of the world with Fantasy Football Evolution. Fantasy Football Evolution is the first ever worldwide fantasy football competition. The winner gets $25,000. Go to nextgenffe.com to sign up today. The only way to know if you're the best is to play against the best. Fantasy Football Evolution at nextgenffe.com.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Pick Lillian Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. I'm your host, Jumpin' John Prevost. With me is Judge Ray Jaffe. And so, Judge, we are the Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. We do have a website, www.kickassfantasyfootball.com. We have 3 nightly shows during the week. We're going down to 2 shows. We're going to have a Tuesday night and a Thursday night show at 7. Our Tuesday night show is at 9, obviously, that we're on. And I want to remind everyone, 97.3 ESPN from 9 to 10 in the morning. We have the commissioned professor. So it's a great hour of football to get you started for the Sunday game.
We got you covered. We have you covered Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, Blog Talk Radio, ESPN Radio, website. We're all over the place.
We're all over the place. The crowd's going wild down here, reminding me of my record again. I'm going to live this down, but when we're famous and we have our own show on ESPN nationally, we can always look back to this moment, right? What do you think?
I think we could look back at this moment. And give ourselves a big round of applause. Or firecrackers. I can't tell what that is.
Does sound like the little ones that you just the paper ones, but yeah,
right.
Well,
like a quarter brick of firecrackers.
A quarter, yeah. Let's get a. That's what we need. We need a little AC/DC TNT. We need to work on that, Knish. Get that in our audio clips because I think that's how I want our theme music to be. What do you think, Ray?
Love it.
Love it. There you go. Uh-oh. Or that theme music. That's where the show's going tonight. Going down the open sea.
Yeah, we need a bigger boat.
I think we're going to need a bigger boat. I think we're going to need a bigger fantasy team. I haven't been able to check on my pop, see how he's doing again. I like how he started, but you know, as the peanut gallery down there keeps reminding me, was not a banner year last year in the Prevost household. So we'll see how this year goes. I have some time to recover at 10 o'clock, so I think they're waiting for me a little bit before they go and bid on that liner. So
that's really kind of them.
Yeah.
Hold those Kevin Kolb bids. Hold the Kevin Kolb bids till 10 o'clock.
But here's my question: if you throw out Skelton, is there like a two-for offer? Do you get Kevin Kolb for free?
I think you actually get $6 back if you get Kevin Kolb.
A rebate. Rebate, I won Kevin Kolb. There you go.
I'm going to turn in my Kevin Kolb coupon tomorrow night in my draft and see what I can get back for it.
It's only good for one night. All right, so let's get back to talking some real fantasy. How's that for a line? Real fantasy.
Real fantasy.
A couple injured receivers that are going to be out week one, and one that you may not have been relying on too much. Seattle wide receiver Golden Tate is out for the first game due to a knee injury. But I tell you, I think you got Braylon Edwards. He may be taking his place. And Marshawn Lynch is on the board. Marshawn Lynch, by the way, we're going to hit that and some injured running backs. But Marshawn Lynch does have some back issues, so just keep that in mind.
Marshawn Lynch is just on the board now. So I understand if you need to sort of direct attention, let me know. We'll I'll go on and on about Marshawn Lynch and talking him up. I actually have him in one of my leagues. I loved him last year. But yeah, I mean, Seattle, Russell Wilson, Golden Tate. You like Golden Tate, actually. I think you just like his name.
I do like Golden Tate. I got to take a look at who's on my board. So.
Yeah, but Russell Wilson, we'll see. It's one of these things where who are the receivers he's going to click with. He's been spreading the ball around pretty well through the preseasons. You have Sidney Rice, you have Doug Baldwin, who we also sort of hit on last year. He had a few breakout type games, so you got to get through a couple folks to get to Golden Tate.
Yes, Golden Tate's still a young receiver, and I think obviously his better years are ahead of him. But you just hit on something that's really kind of puzzled me. Doug Baldwin has gotten no love at all in drafts or in any fantasy world that I've heard of, and I just find it interesting because he did have, I won't necessarily say a super breakout year, but he did break out a little bit, had some great games. So I think that's definitely a name to keep an eye on, and especially, let's put it this way, it's not the most renowned wide receiver core up in Seattle. So I think,
I agree. I think he had you're right, he didn't have a break. I wouldn't say it was a breakout year, but he definitely had some breakout games, and I think he's worth a flyer.
I do too. I think he's worth a flyer, but there's a lot of drafts I haven't seen him go. I've been on some auto drafts now and then when my connection's cut out, so I haven't always had a chance to get everyone I wanted. But I think that's a name to keep an eye on. So, and if Doug Wilson's going to progress, he's looked great in camp. All you hear is good things about him. Seattle may end up being a passing team.
We shall see.
We shall see. So
we shall see.
We shall see.
And it'll be interesting. Say the Cardinals week one, which might give them plenty of opportunities to try some different things on offense.
Well, let's put it this way: if they don't do it there, they may never do it. But actually, I shouldn't say that. This is why I like this division. So if you can grab some players within this division, you have Arizona twice and St. Louis twice. St. Louis has probably the worst secondary in the league, so there's definitely a lot of opportunity to go there.
Yeah, and just sit the guys when they play San Francisco, and you'll be all set.
Yeah, it's okay, San Fran, but he's still got 4 good games.
Or 6. Yeah, Seattle's no world beaters on defense.
Seattle is no world beater on defense. Well, I shouldn't say that. They actually do have a pretty good fantasy defense, but I think they can be had from a real life perspective. I think they have some good special teams and some good opportunity picks, fumbles. So they're doing well with fantasy, but as a game defense, maybe not the best.
Yeah, I would say they have they have a mid-tier defense. I wouldn't even say they're not a top 10 defense. I don't think.
Not a top 10 defense. All right, so let's opine a little bit on some injured running backs. Let's go there for a minute. I may need to check my board, and we'll
one more wide receiver I wanted to hit on though briefly. Kenny Britt, out week 1, suspended, correct?
Kenny Britt is out week 1. Even if he wasn't suspended, he's probably still wouldn't have played due to still recovering from his injury. Kenny Britt's one of those, again, receivers, all the talent in the world, but maybe a little bit of a head case.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring him up because he's not there week 1. Jake Locker taking the reins now. Kendall Wright's a rookie that a lot of people like. I like him, and Locker and Nate Washington actually had a pretty good connection when Locker played last year. So, it'll be interesting with Britt if he does have a lot of talent, but if he's out a couple weeks. And if Locker's just get real comfortable with Wright and Washington, we'll see whether he's just going to be Britt's just going to be another guy. Some people put a fair amount of value on Britt this year. I'm not as comfortable with Britt maybe as some other folks are that draft him a little higher.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of him because I think Locker can sling the ball. So there's definitely some value in the receivers. I think Nate Washington is an undervalued, underappreciated type that may do well this year. Again, I'm big on Chris Johnson. He's definitely, as we've mentioned throughout our shows, one of the man crushes I have. I like to have him. I have him on this team. So I'm looking for them to get back to running the ball. But, they may do a little more passing, and he may actually end up catching some balls out of the backfield a little bit more as well. But keep an eye on it because, Jake Locker, again, is another young quarterback, has a year under his belt, and, may end up surprising some people with or without Kenny Britt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, we're going to get a break in a few minutes. So let's go into the break. Before we do that, we're going to do some notable cuts. There's a big name that was on the cut list. So everyone needs to know that Gronkowski was cut.
Unbelievable. Can you believe it?
It's unbelievable. I can't. I mean, you thought the guy would have been in the league for 20 years, but Gronkowski was cut. Not Rob, but, Dan Gronkowski, his brother. So just thought we needed to mention that.
Of course, yeah, it's an outrage. Dan Gronkowski. I can't even. If it's Rob Gronkowski, I can say his last name fine. If it's Dan Gronkowski, I can't even pronounce it.
All right. So actually, speaking of Gronkowski, I want your opinion on this, Ray. Auction link, he went for $16 this year. So I wonder what you think about Gronkowski, the tight end mandatory position going for $16.
$100 league.
$100. Yep.
And you have to start a tight end or not?
You have to start a tight end.
Yeah, I can say it. What did Jimmy Graham go for? Do you know off the top of your head?
Haven't gotten that update yet, so we'll have to get back to you on that.
I think 16 for Gronkowski is. I think that makes sense to tell you the truth. I mean, he's in snake drafts. Gronkowski is, going a lot, and a lot of times going in the second round. So it's reasonable.
I think it's reasonable. I still, have to get over some of that tight end.
Yeah, it's weird, right? I agree with you. It's strange because tight ends just traditionally don't get that kind of value. But I mean, his numbers were as good as anyone's last year. Wide receiver, running back, anyone.
So Gronkowski went for 16, Fitzgerald went for 20, and Andre Johnson went for 21. So he's right up in there.
Yeah, and that sort of makes sense.
Yeah, and actually, I'd have to take a look numbers-wise. He had a better year, definitely than Andre Johnson with his injuries. But we'll have to see what Megatron went for, just out of curiosity. And
Megatron had to go for 26, 28, and based on that, I would guess.
Here, Arian Foster went for 38, Ray Rice went for 35, LaShawn McCoy went for 32. So those are your top three off the board in pretty much any league. Number 4, there's definitely a mixed bag. Aaron Rodgers is usually number 4. He went for 32. So it's playing out so far pretty close to the vest of what you would expect. That's why I'm pretty pleased that we got Chris Johnson at 25. So I think there's definitely value in that.
Yeah, I think that's assuming he's back the way people think he's going to be back, and is the Chris Johnson of the last 6 games of last year, then absolutely.
All right, so Deion Branch was cut, Seneca Wallace was cut, not big names, but just some of the more notable names. Kellen Winslow was cut, and that took me a little bit by surprise. Another high talent or character type individual that I think his talent isn't high enough to overcome his deficiencies.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he does. I mean, yeah, he's a guy that looked like he really could have a breakout kind of career, and sort of went the other way.
Yeah. So, all right, tell you what, we're running up against the break. So I wanted to remind everyone, www.kickassfantasyfootball.com. Every Sunday for as little as $5, you can play Beat the Commish. So if you beat them, it's $50, and at the end of the season, you can win $1,000. So just another enhancement to our website, along with, well, I don't really need the draft analyzer too much anymore, do you? But we do have weekly starts and sits, and we do have articles and division updates. It's a great website. So $19.95.
So that Beat the Commish, that's in fantasy, right? You don't actually get to take a swing at him if he gives you like bad advice or something.
Only if you're lucky.
We might have to clarify that with the Commish. Beat the. I'm pretty sure. I think it's only. I think he's only signing up for fantasy football for this. I don't think he's actually signing up for actual beatings. But we'll confirm.
Yes, you play against me in fantasy. That is correct.
The Commish chiming in.
Yes. Listen, check us out Sunday morning, 97.3 ESPN.com. Beat the Commish. You play against me. If you beat me, you can win $50. At the end of the season, the most beats against me wins $1,000. And we just added today via the Piccolo Inn, our title sponsor. They're giving up Eagles-Giants tickets.
Wow, nice.
So everyone who beats the Commish on Sunday and plays on Sunday will be entered in a drawing to win those tickets before the game. So it's really good stuff, and we're real excited about it.
And then
thank you for the clarification. No physical beatings going on here.
No physical beatings. That is correct.
All right. Next year, maybe.
I'm a fantasy player, not a fighter.
All right, I'll tell you what. Let's take our break. We've got another 2-minute break. We're going to come back. This is the Piccolo Inn Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show on Blog Talk Radio. Judge Ray Jaffe has joined me, your host, Jumpin' John Prevost, and we'll be back in 2 minutes.
Listen up, fantasy football owners. If you want top quality, guaranteed authentic sports memorabilia, there's only one place to go. Prestige Sports Marketing. They offer autographed baseball and football jerseys, framed jerseys, helmets, bats, photos, and amazing artwork. They're 100% guaranteed authentic, so you can feel 100% confident. Check out Prestige Sports Marketing at PrestigeSportsMKTG.com. That's PrestigeSportsMKTG.com. Enter promo code ESPN and get 10% off.
This fantasy football season, be sure to check out Power Play Fantasy Sports, featuring free and pay-to-play fantasy football games with huge cash prizes. Power Play Fantasy Sports is your home for the 2012 fantasy football season. Visit the website PowerPlayFantasySports.com and use the promo code KICK to receive 20% off your entry in the Power Player Fantasy Football League, featuring a $5,000 grand prize. Again, that's promo code KICK. If you know football, this is the game for you. Visit PowerPlayFantasySports.com today. Don't let your fantasy issues become a reality. Fantasy Judgment is the premier dispute resolution service for all fantasy sports leagues. Led by attorney Michael Stein, the Supreme Court of Fantasy Judgment will resolve any and all issues or conflicts that arise in fantasy leagues. This includes disputed trades, collusion, abuse of power by league commissioners, lineup and roster errors, draft issues, score discrepancies, and interpretation of league rules. We alleviate the burden for league commissioners and allow everyone to focus on winning their leagues rather than arguing over disputes. Visit www.fantasyjudgment.com.
Hey fantasy fans, how often has 1 or 2 injuries ruined your chances of winning your fantasy league? If you're anything like me, too often. What if I told you that I found a fantasy game that could help you avoid that? You can win cash prizes daily. FantasyPlayerExchange.com is a new fantasy game that allows you to make a team every single day. You can choose from players in multiple sports. Every day you have a chance to win. Unlike traditional fantasy games, FantasyPlayerExchange.com allows you to make your own team every day. Sign up today and enter to win a free trip to Las Vegas. FantasyPlayerExchange.com. Invest in your daily fantasy.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Piccolo Inn Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show on Blog Talk Radio. I'm your host, Jumpin' John Prevost. Judge, we got about 10 minutes left. Time's really flown this evening. I can't say I've been as successful working on my draft as I wanted to, but the show's been successful. So we'll take our victories as they come, right?
We like to think the show's been successful. And it is amazing how fast this hour goes. I mean, when the season starts, which is tomorrow night, it's going to be in a blink of an eye. So it's fun. It's just a good time to talk about this stuff.
No, I agree with that. So there you go.
Are you ready for football?
There we go.
I was a little slow on that. I insert comment here, but I got there. I'll tell you what we wanted to talk about for the next 10 minutes. Let's get on the running back train. And one of the notable cuts we didn't talk about was Tim Hightower. And we can spend a few minutes talking about that mess in Washington and then some of the other running backs that are injured or limited this week. So I know you love talking about Washington Redskins running backs and what Shanahan does with them. So why don't you go ahead, Ray, and what do you think about Tim Hightower being cut from the Redskins?
Well, it's funny. I was in Washington over the weekend and I was talking to some folks that are stout Redskins followers and getting a little bit of information from them. I guess I'm not terribly shocked that Tim Hightower was cut. He wasn't really in the discussion, it sounded like. You have Roy Halou, you have Alfred Morris, and you have Evan Royster. I like Royster. I think Royster will emerge eventually. Halou had some of the big games last year. I was asking these guys what they thought. They actually agreed that they thought Royster was probably the best pure running back. They thought maybe Halou can do more things, but Royster might be the best pure running back. It's funny. Shanahan, obviously, the last few years it's just a wild card with where he goes with running back. But if history tells us, I mean, none of these guys have Terrell Davis, but Shanahan also is happy to settle on a guy if he finds the right guy. So certainly an interesting battle to watch. I'm pulling for Evan Royster because I've been on his bandwagon for the last few weeks.
Well, again, it's for me, always looking at the Penn State guys, so that's always nice to see. Alfred Morris is a rookie who impressed in the preseason. He's listed right now third on the depth chart. That could change tomorrow. I think again, one of the biggest issues is going through the season healthy, and Washington Redskins running backs have had problems doing that. So I think it's going to be mix and match all year. I think there's probably going to be injury issues all year, and I think depending on what happens, Hightower could even come back to Washington.
Oh, if that happens, they will certainly have had a lot of injuries. Yep.
Well, considering it's going to be a couple of weeks for Hightower to recover, I would say so. And one of the reasons why he got cut, he was unable to be put on the PUP. He was unable to be put as an IR person that could come back to the team. So really the only thing they could do was cut him because he's obviously not ready to start the season.
Yeah. So no more Tim Hightower, at least for week one.
No more Tim Hightower. So let's go Evan Royster. But there are definitely a couple other running backs that we need to watch out for that, tough as they are, they're not going to be playing for their teams for respective week one, or at least will be limited. Let's start off with our favorite running back from last year, Ryan Matthews. He still wants to come back. What do you think his chances are, and when do you think he plays?
Yeah, I think his chances are none. I think they're saying he's really not playing. So it would be a great upset if Matthews was on the field week one. I don't think it's likely to happen. When he's on the field, he's very dynamic back. And the problem with him has always been getting on the field. Ronnie Brown, maybe the back. San Diego's problem this year is they don't really have that good, in my mind, they don't have that good backup running back. In years past, they had Tolbert, right? Mike Tolbert, who was like a power back and a very suitable running back. But, this year it's a real weakness.
Yeah, it's a shame. I think they were obviously expecting big things from him, and then right out the bat they got an injury. That's kind of disappointing. They lost Smith and Jackson. So there definitely could be some troubled waters for San Diego. But I do think that they're still a dynamic, explosive offense. So I still still like San Diego, and in that division, anything goes. We still could see San Diego, which would be a change, winning the division and going to the playoffs.
The division is relatively wide open. A lot of question marks or a lot of variables in that division for sure. So we'll see. I mean, they have Raiders week 1 late Monday night. So if nothing else, if you have a wild hair and you just want action to the very end of the week, start Ronnie Brown and see what happens, because you won't know your outcome of your game until about 1 a.m. Monday night.
I don't think that's even a bad play. I don't know how much Ronnie Brown has in the tank, but as we go through this list of injured running backs that may not be playing, you could do worse than having Ronnie Brown as their starting running back rather than relying on Beanie Wells, who knows how he's going to do, right? So I think if you have Ryan Matthews handcuffing in the front, that's definitely the definition of a handcuff. Is when Ryan Matthews is healthy, he's playing. When he's not healthy,
there's no right. I mean, that's the upside of Matthews. It's a single back team now. None of these guys are going to really take any sort of meaningful carries from him like Tolbert used to. So I mean, when Matthews is ready to go, he's one of the dwindling number of guys that is the man. He really is the back.
So and another running back who's the man is Adrian Peterson. He's already. Again, they all want to play. They all want to carry the ball, and but I'm not sure how many carries he's going to get. Toby Gerhart looked pretty good in the preseason. So what do you expect out of Adrian Peterson this week? I'm telling you, my son loves him and really wants him on his team. He's ready to trade just about anybody for him, and I'm trying to push him a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's already the word is it's going to be a Sunday decision. So this is really going to come down to the wire. If he does play, I agree. It's likely to be, or almost certainly to be, less carries than he normally would get. Jacksonville is sort of a middling, middle of the tier type defense. Don't have much offense though, so good candidate to pile up running yards against, just because I think they're going to be, their opponents are going to have the lead a lot of times against the Jaguars. So I would slot AP this week. If you have 3 running backs, I think he's an RB3 or a good flex player. I think I might shy away from him as an RB 1 or 2 this week.
No, I agree. And it's definitely one of those players that if he plays and plays well, you're killing yourself for not having him in there. But just coming off the injury that is, you can't rely on him. So I'm trying to look up. I set up leagues for both my kids this year. And they're pretty excited. And my older son came home, and all he wants is Adrian Peterson on his team. So I'm trying to get him to say, to step back and make sure that you need to know who you have and who you're trading, what they're capable of before you go ahead and trade for them. But
that's all right. Let them learn. School of hard knocks.
School of hard knocks. Well, they're playing. Some of the kids in the league have played before, and they're ready to go and do the research. And my kids are 10 and 8, so I'm not really sure how ready they are to actually do this. We did an auto draft for them, so I think I don't think they're ready for a draft, but they're pretty excited, and a lot of their friends are playing. So there's 20+ kids in these 2 leagues against them, and so it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, here they come, feeling strong now.
Yeah. I'm passing on the fantasy gene. I may do it as a single dad when my wife divorces me, but at least the kids are headed in the right direction.
Keep the family tradition going.
Keep the family tradition. I'm going to have to. MJD we talked about. Jonathan Stewart. I want to make sure, get the caution out there. He has not returned to practice. I don't think he's going to play. So, we all know what Cam Newton did last year. I'm just wondering how much it brings up. It maybe increases their passing game, maybe increases numbers to Steve Smith, or do we see Tolbert in action a little bit? Or D'Angelo obviously is going to take a step up, but is he really going to get more carries because of this? What do you think, Ray?
They certainly have potentially easy pickings with the Buccaneers. I'm just trying to. I think there was some late news that Stewart might be playing, so we'll have to see. But regardless, that running back situation, and I'm not sure where that stands. The running back situation is obviously, it was when they brought on Tolbert, it was sort of like, well, really? You thought one of those guys may be on their way out. They're not. They really do sort of a three-headed monster. It's just too many cooks in the kitchen. I think even against an easy Buccaneer team, it's the guys are probably going to be 60 to 70-yard guys at the top end. So tough to rely on a Panthers running back this year, I'm afraid.
All right, so let's take some quick hits here, Ray. We've got some chat room questions. Let's see what we can get in the time we have left. Mark Ingram or Jonathan Dwyer? They're both available. Who do you like?
I like Ingram. I actually like Ingram this year. I think he's going to take a step forward.
And to the earlier Pierre Thomas question, it's probably going to be at his expense. So, DeMarco Murray, do you handcuff him with Felix Jones?
Yeah. I mean, yes. I'd have to know a little bit more about the league, I guess. But, Felix Jones is, a solid runner. You have to, I know we need to be quick here, but you need to look at, Felix Jones starting versus who would be out there on the heap. Unless it's a really, really shallow league, I think Felix Jones is a good handcuff.
And MJD. So I'm actually not sure. Jim Struble, are you talking about getting Jennings or giving him up? So this talk about trade advantage of the MJD owner, trade for Jennings. What do you think? Is Jennings going to fill much of a role once MJD comes back? No,
I don't think so. He might get he looked great in preseason, but MJD is the guy. He's still going to be the man. Jennings might get a few more carries. Again, good handcuff, but I wouldn't overpay for him. I think you have to treat him like a second-string running back, which is what he is.
Yeah. So I'm not really sure what's in store for MJD, but we did talk about him earlier. So I think once he's ready, which could be as early as week 2, he's definitely the primary back. You mentioned Marshawn Lynch. He's got some back spasms. So I think the backup there is Turbin. I think that's right, Robert Turbin. And so I would be making sure you have him on your roster because he could be the primary ball carrier in Seattle.
And he did look good in preseason as well.
Yeah. So, and then one other running back, Trent Richardson. His workload's a mystery right now. He says he's healthy. I'm not really sure he is. What do you think about Trent Richardson, and what do you think about Montario Hardesty?
I like Richardson. I think he's going to be good to go. I like him behind the line. The Browns did not look particularly great in preseason, but it is preseason. I think with that offensive line, Richardson, I still like him. I think he's going to have a big year.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things where rookie running backs can make an impact. Rookie running backs coming off 2 knee surgeries, I'd be a little wary of. Again, I think it's a case of the backup Hardesty's looked good in the preseason, so he may end up, footing the bill, or may end up splitting some carries as they get a little cautious with Richardson. But all right, that's about all we have time for tonight. I got to get back to my draft. I'm a little worried about how it's going with all the laughing that's going on at my expense. So I'm not really sure what kind of team.
All right, you've been listening to the Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. Catch us every week this time between 9 and 10 o'clock on Tuesday night. Catch us again tomorrow night between 9 and 10, Thursday at 7. And don't forget, Beat the Commish, Sunday mornings between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. on ESPN